Okay, so I didn't want to make a video about this because usually I like to avoid drama videos when, if possible, but this has been nagging at me for like 2 weeks. And I know that if I'm not gonna make a video, it will keep nagging at me, because that's how my circuits work. And I have a vlog channel, so why not? Okay, let's get into it, and I will be reading a lot. I took a lot of notes because I'm in a hurry, I don't want to mess things up. So, a basic timeline of what happened. A couple weeks ago, Girl Writes What, that's her YouTube username, she got DMCA'd on 3 of her videos. By 2 allegedly different people, might have been the same person, and at first her videos got removed from YouTube by YouTube, and then later on, I think a week later or so, they got reinstated because the claims got dropped. So, in her initial video, she pointed the finger at Free Thought Blogs, the blog I write on, us being a possible suspect. And when this happened, I just let it slide at the time, because getting DMCA sucks, it really does. It's frustrating as all hell, it's abusive, it's unfair. I just thought that, you know, in her frenzy, she just wanted to find somebody guilty of it. She just needed some suspects. So in her first video, she says this.
I find it really odd that this attack occurred only a day or 2 after the first highly upvoted, over 100 upvotes, and since removed, comment I left on the channel of Free From Thought blogger and popular atheist-turned-feminist vlogger, Zomb It's Chris.
Obviously, I didn't remove her comments, I never delete any comments, ever. And she later on acknowledges in her little description thing that I didn't do it, so that's not my problem. My problem with her statement is that she's saying I've turned feminist, which I haven't. I haven't turned feminist any more than I've turned atheist. I've been one since I've been on YouTube. I've been one before that, for years, for like a decade.
According to the people in the skeptic atheist community, there have been incidents of stalking and harassment of individuals in that community who do not toe the FTB Feminist Party line.
Because hearsay is obviously the best type of evidence. Also, this argument that the DMCAs were filed a couple days after she commented on my videos. Are you freaking kidding me? Since when correlation implies causation? Anyway, like I said at first, I just thought that she's overreacting, she's upset. I mean, I know how upsetting a DMCA is, so I didn't say anything about it. However, a week later, after things calmed down, after her videos got reinstated, she makes the same accusations all over again, which make them not an act of impulse, but a calculated thing.
Though I am all too mindful that this attack may have originated at Tantrum Central, that is, the Free Thought blogs and skeptic communities, I know it was either one person or 2 working together. I have to say that if it is someone affiliated with either Free Thought blogs or the skeptics, I will shit my pants for joy.
There was nobody from Free Thought blogs and or skeptic who even commented on my video. Besides myself, I mean. There is just no reason to assume those people even saw her comments. I mean, who the hell cares? Some comments on a video when she has her own channel with her own videos with tens of thousands of views. Don't you think she got more attention that way? If you do a quick search of her screen name on Free Thought blogs, you will see that no blogger there ever mentioned her or acknowledged her existence in any way before I did, which was only after this drama started. She deliberately made herself look like the target of a group of people who are, at the moment, pretty hated on YouTube, when there is absolutely no evidence that this group of people ever targeted her in any way. So in my blog post, all I did was embed her video titling the post Free Thought blogs, also I guess skeptic, must have done did it, and then I wrote this short paragraph. Duh, because even if there is no evidence for this, the Free Thought skeptic blog must be responsible for Girl Writes What getting DMCA'd. Also for starving kids in Africa. Oh yeah, skepticism, yeah. And I would have had the exact same reaction if somebody else, say, left some comments on one of Aaron Ra's videos, or criticized in any way Mariam Namazi, and then coincidentally a couple days later got in some trouble on the internet, and just started to point the finger at Free Thought blogs as suspects, because these people just happen to write in that space. And by the way, we don't function as a unit there, you know? We don't have some collective pool of ideas and opinions and thoughts. We are individuals. In fact, I too have been upset about the firing of Thunderfoot, and I disagreed with that decision both in private emails and publicly. What Girl Writes What did here was a shameless manipulation of a large audience who already has issues with free thought blogs, and who would apparently happily make them the scapegoat of anything bad that ever happens on the internet. I also want to address a couple people who left comments on my blog saying that I jumped the boat from made to must when I title my post "Free Thought Blogs Must Have Done Did It." If you hear a knock on your door and you tell somebody that must be John, you're not showing certainty that the person at the door is John. What you're showing is strong suspicion that the person at the door may be John, which is exactly what Girl Writes What did. She showed strong suspicion that the offenders may be free thought blogs. Other people made a similar point, saying that because she used words like may and if, that doesn't count as an accusation. You know I like hypothetical scenarios, so imagine me making a public video saying something like Girl Writes What may have DMCA'd herself, obviously with the intention of dropping the claims later, just to gain herself some publicity and some money. And if that turns out to be true, I will shit my pants for joy. Do you still think that would have been okay? No, it would not have been okay. It would have been slanderous. Girl Writes What also seems to have a magic crystal ball which gives her insight into other people's minds.
This is a disgusting abuse of the system in order to dox me. I know this because there were only 2 claimants. They don't want to shut down my account. They want me to counterclaim to prevent a 3rd strike and deletion, so that they can get my personal information and begin a campaign of real-life harassment.
Yes, it was a disgusting abuse of the system. I completely agree with that. However, the intention to dox her, that belongs to the realm of speculation, not knowledge as she's claiming. She knows. It is just as wild as me speculating that she DMCA'd herself because she anticipated she'll be getting popularity and money from it.
My PayPal account is a lot fatter today than it was a couple days ago. Thank you so much for everybody who threw anywhere from $5 to $200 in my direction.
However, I'm not gonna claim that I know that's what happened because I ain't got a magic crystal ball, yo! Now, as for the reasons behind her assertions, this is a print screen provided by Girl Writes What herself showing the copyright notices. There were indeed 2 names behind filing the claims. A 3rd name would have probably resulted in her channel being suspended. However, there were 3 videos she got DMCA'd on. Why not just 2? It would have been enough for 2 videos to get the notices to produce the exact same effect. Why go through the trouble of filing another one when there was no need for it if their intention was to dox her? There's a whole range of possibilities behind what happened. Maybe these videos were the only ones they watched, and they just wanted to take them down. Maybe the claimants did want to get her channel suspended and just didn't know it takes 3 names to do it. Who the hell knows? Now, just to throw it out there, if somebody is so knowledgeable of how the DMCA system works on YouTube, shouldn't they also probably know that you can still file counterclaims even after your account is suspended or even shut down? And if they were really after her docs, wouldn't have been more of an incentive for her to file counterclaims in order to try and get her channel back with her 13,000+ subscribers? As I said, I would have given her the benefit of the doubt that she made all these assumptions in the heat of the moment, that she was just so freaked out. However, in her 2nd video, the way she manipulates her audience looks deliberate as all hell. So she gradually goes from saying something like, look, there's a possibility that this might have happened, to I believe this is what happened, to this is what actually happened, to myself and my family might be in danger. And this is in the course of a few minutes, because she psychically knows that the offenders were not only after her docs, but they were after her docs with the explicit intention of harassing her and her family in real life and maybe even hurt them. So she goes from saying this:
the fact that the claims were quietly and seemingly simultaneously withdrawn means one of 3 things. They realized it wouldn't work and backed down, they got my docs some other way, or they realized they hadn't covered their internet tracks, and my talk of lawyering up spooked them.
So, you know, there may be 3 possibilities, okay. I personally would argue that there could be several more, but that's not important. What's important is that she goes on to this:
it's my belief that these people committed that felony, perjury, in the service of commission of future criminal acts against me. That is, in order to harass and stalk me and my family.
Harassment stalked her and her family. That's her belief. It's only a belief for like a couple minutes when it suddenly becomes certainty when she progresses onto this.
But this was the beginning of an attack on me and my family. This was an attempt to obtain my docs and use them for harassment, or drop them all over the internet and let other lunatics do what they wanted with them.
An attack. The beginning of an attack on her and her family. You know, bringing in your family like that, playing that card, is pretty much guaranteed to get you a lot of sympathy, even if there is absolutely no basis for what you're claiming. If I thought that she was genuinely fearing this, I would go on explaining how a DMCA claim on YouTube is not an attack on your family. I don't think that's necessary though, because this gradual progression from suspicion to belief to certainty in a matter of minutes when describing the exact same incident is just a manipulation course one-on-one. Especially when she goes on even further with this.
If something untoward ever happens to me or my family, I can't even begin to imagine what the response from the men's community online would be.
This veiled cry of
"Me and my family, we might be in danger, something might happen to my family."
It is so obvious, I simply cannot believe people actually fell for it. It's a DMCA on YouTube. All of us got those. I can literally not think of one single person who's mildly popular on YouTube and who talks about controversial issues who did not get one. Most of us got several. Coughlin got over 50 of them, for fuck's sake. My family, my family. Now, I don't want to make this entire video about some DMCA drama because I think there are important things to point out as well. So, I will give you a couple other examples where Girl Writes What deliberately manipulates her audience by distorting and even inventing facts. Let's start with her defending the concept of patriarchy as being historically essential to survival.
In fact, it's recently been suggested by anthropologists that the Neanderthals died out because they employed an egalitarian division of labor in a world that didn't lend itself to maintaining and growing populations through equal distribution of labor and equal distribution of risk to life and limb. Once the hapless, egalitarian Neanderthals met up with modern humans who had a more gendered division of labor, based on prioritizing women's safety, it was pretty much all over for them. And this is generally what's happened to all societies based on arrangements other than some form of patriarchy.
This is complete and absolutely unscientific bullshit. And unlike Girl Writes What, who seems to pull facts out of her kitchen sink draining hole or something, I'm actually gonna provide links for what I'm saying. Imagine that. The consensus among anthropologists is that most prehistoric societies were largely egalitarian, and that the first signs of patriarchy came about only after the domestication of animals and plants, aka agriculture, which by the way started some 10,000 years ago. The actual beginning and spread of patriarchal societies can be traced back to only some 6,000 years ago. The domestication of plants and animals played a huge role in reshaping societies, because now it wasn't a matter of only survival, but mostly thrival. As for the Neanderthals, they went extinct some 25,000 years ago. Now, I'm not that great at math, but there's a huge fucking gap in your theory there. Girl Writes What? Also in defense of patriarchy, she quotes a blog which is not written by herself, however, she clearly agrees with it.
Now, I'm going to borrow a bit from another blogger named Rob of the blog No Ma'am, and read a portion of his description of patriarchy and lifelong monogamous marriage, because he really explained it very effectively. When one stands back and observes the whole lot, we see that both males and females have a surplus and a shortage. Males have a surplus of labor, but a shortage of reproductive ability. Females have a surplus of reproductive ability, but a shortage of labor. Now perhaps you can see why marriage is an economic contract. The male sells his surplus labor to the female in exchange for her reproductive ability. The female sells her reproductive ability to the male in exchange for his surplus labor. In order to sell something, you first must own it yourself, and upon selling it, you are agreeing to transfer ownership of it to the buyer. This is the basis of economics, and as you can see, it is based on property rights. In the economic contract of marriage, the female agrees to transfer the ownership of her sexual reproductive ability to the male, and she takes ownership of his surplus labor as payment for it. So yes, while feminists harp on and on that women were once owned as chattel, there is truth to this, because in a very real sense, the woman's sexuality became the property of the husband. He very much was considered to own her sexuality and the products of her sexuality, children. The children of a marriage became his property because he paid for them.
This goes to show that you can make any piece of fallacy-ridden garbage writing sound good if you smirk enough times while reading it. Let's go back to the key sentence here.
In order to sell something, you first must own it yourself, and upon selling it, you are agreeing to transfer ownership of it to the buyer.
Agreeing, Girl Writes What. The part that she blissfully omits to point out is that most of the time, women had no saying in this. If they did not agree to the contract, they would be told, tough luck, bitch. In many cases, they were passed on from one man to another, from father to husband, without ever being asked, hey, are you okay with this? Not to mention that if a woman felt like she didn't really need that surplus of labor from the husband and instead she wanted to work and have a fair wage and own her own shit, she couldn't. It was not just her sexuality that was the property of the husband, but also everything else she fucking had. In the comment section of that video, she also goes to claim how in most cases with humans, notice how scientific that sounds, there is no individual who will be as invested in the child as the child's father. Now, just the mere fact that she makes the same argument here as the anti-gay adoption fundamentalist crew should raise an eyebrow. But what she's doing here is basically ignoring all the studies, which show, for instance, that adoptive parents are often more invested into their children's care and well-being than biological parents, and that same-sex couples, in which obviously at least one person is not a biological parent, are just as good at raising kids as straight couples. You know what propaganda is? Is when you are intentionally presenting only part of the facts, the part which would obviously support your arguments, while deliberately hiding the other part of the facts, which could potentially invalidate your claims.
Let's look at some of the other costs of single motherhood, especially when fathers are completely absent, through the statistical disadvantages to their children. These children face a 2 to 10 times greater risk of substance abuse, truancy, health problems, being abused, behavioral problems and personality disorders, criminal behavior, gang activity, suicide and running away, dropping out at all levels of education, incarceration as youths and as adults, sexually transmitted diseases, having children outside of relationships, and becoming teenage parents.
So here she's talking about studies done on single mothers and how these kids are worse off in life, generally speaking, which is true. But what she doesn't say is that studies done on single parents, both men and women, have the same conclusions. It is kids from broken homes who are generally worse off in life, and same with kids who grow up with alcoholic parents or who grow up surrounded by domestic violence and so on. This is propaganda to a T, and done so literally with a smile on the face. And speaking of domestic violence, she even goes as far as defending it, in response to an article which claims domestic violence against women is necessary because, and I quote, is the only thing that makes them behave better than chimps. Yes, they're talking about women. I'm gonna end this video here with the hope that in the future there will be less drama and more fun stuff on this channel, and I will leave you with the wise words of one of the most avid supporters of Girl Writes What. Bye.
By the way, women who are perceived to be victims, who are perceived to be in peril, increase their social power and their ability to manipulate the action of other people to act on their behalf. This is why certain disreputable members of the skeptical community continuously bang on the bongo drum of, oh, look how much of a victim I am, because it makes them more socially powerful and able to compel the actions of others.
But this was the beginning of an attack on me and my family. This was an attempt to obtain my docs and use them for harassment, or drop them all over the internet and let other lunatics do what they wanted with them.